man without a vote is a man without protection. Lyndon B. Johnson, former U.S. President. Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your host, Shamiza Ali, and it's a pleasure being here with you this evening. Good evening to everyone joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Our topic tonight is Guyana is ready and prepared for local government elections on June 12, 2023. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by Coordinating Council of Guyanese based in the US, UK, Canada, the Caribbean, and Guyana. Funding support is by well-known philanthropist Dave Ryan from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderator for tonight, Professor Muniwangudi.
Thank you very much, Samiza. I welcome our viewers to today's Guyana Dialogue event. The panelists for this event are Professor Mahendra Hariraj. Professor Hariraj.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
And Professor Ganga Ramdas.
Everybody.
Hi, hello, Ganga. How are you doing today?
Okay, quite well.
Thank you, Professor Guru. Our guest tonight is Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, the Honorable Nigel D. Dharamlall. Good evening, Minister, and welcome to the Guyana Dialogue.
Yes, good evening, Shaliza, and good evening to all of your co-hosts and experts.
Pleasure having you here this evening. Professor Guru, please go ahead.
Minister Dharamlall, I warmly welcome you to our program. We will engage you in a dialogue seeking clarity and facts on local government administration, and in particular, the upcoming local government elections scheduled for June the 12th.
Yes, very well, and I'm happy to share as much as you would require me to share on your program, and hopefully we'd be able to bring some clarity to all those who are viewing and listening. As you're aware, local government elections are slated for June 12th, where we'd have 8 elections, 10 towns and 17 neighborhood democratic councils all across Guyana.
All right. Minister, for benefit of our viewers, please tell us about the structure of local government in Guyana, how members are elected, how often, what is it that they do, how they are funded, what is their relationship to the central government, and what is your role?
Well, let's start with the simplest of those questions. My role basically as Minister of Local Government and Regional Development is to, on behalf of the Cabinet and on behalf of central government, to ensure that the policies of government are implemented in the local democratic organs across communities and villages in Guyana. The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development oversees the 10 administrative regions through the regional democratic councils. We also oversee at the even lower level, that is at the local level, the 70 neighborhood democratic councils comprised of various constituencies, the number of constituencies depending on the size of each council, and the 10 municipalities across Guyana, including the city of Georgetown. Central government plays an integral role in local development because we engage to a large extent in terms of the building of local infrastructure, the expansion of local infrastructure, as well as ensuring that the commitments our president made during his campaign in the manifesto, that those commitments are upheld. The local democratic organs, as we usually call them, they are located in different parts of the country. We have along coastal Guyana, and we have in the hinterland as well. For the purposes of information, in Region 9, we have 2 local democratic organs, and those are the municipality of Lethem, the NDC of Arnapipa. In Region 10, we have the town of Linden, the NDC of Kokwani. In Region 1, we have the town of Mabaroma and the NDC of Botaikimo Machizur. In Region 8, which is also one of the hinterland regions, we have only one local democratic organ, and that is the municipality of Madia. In Region 7, we also have one, which is the municipality of Partica. Otherwise, all of the neighborhood democratic councils as well as municipalities are located along coastal Guyana. In Region 2, we have the municipality of Regina. In Region 4, we have Georgetown. Region 3 doesn't have any local democratic organ to the extent of a municipality. However, they have 14 neighborhood democratic councils. In Region 5, we have no municipality, but we have 10 neighborhood democratic councils. In Region 6, we have 3 municipalities, Curveton, Rose Hall, New Amsterdam, and we have, until now, 18 neighborhood democratic councils. But as of June 12th, we have an additional neighborhood democratic council. We are one of the largest councils in Guyana, which is the 274 NDC. We have decided to split that NDC into 2 NDCs. So basically, that is a wrap in terms of the structure of the local democratic organs. These organs mostly are self-funded to the extent that they collect rates and taxes. In many areas, rates and tax collection is still very much below 50%. So what we find is that central government does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of community infrastructure, especially road building, drainage and irrigation, bridge construction. So the especially building of safe community spaces, such like those heavy lifting, they're done by central government. The municipalities and to some extent the neighborhood democratic councils, they are involved in solid waste management. The central government also in Georgetown pay for the management of the landfill at Eccles, and we do the same in other parts of the country, including the municipality of Lethem, Bartica. We also do the 3 municipalities in Region 6.
Now, is there a regular evaluation and auditing of these local government organs or units you call? If so, how often? Who performs the evaluation?
Well,
For example, what the assessment shows in, say, for the last 5 years, are they
right.
doing well? Are there any corrupt LG organs?
Well, this is one of the critical areas that we have to deal with. All of the local democratic organs, before their estimates or their budgets are approved for a year, they have to submit audited statements, financial statements, as well as their budget to the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, where there is concurrence and approval. In many cases, we try to ensure that the needs of our communities are catered for in many of these budgets. These budgets also incur the day-to-day running expenses of the neighborhood democratic councils as well as the municipalities. And specifically for municipalities and some of the larger neighborhood democratic councils, they also manage many of the markets within their jurisdiction. So resources are also geared towards the management of those types of utilities and facilities within the communities.
Did you identify any areas of corruption?
Well, we have had, since we took office, we have had costs to, through the Local Government Commission, which has authority over the administrative issues, especially recruitment, termination, disciplining, those kinds of things within the local democratic organs. We've had costs to bring some issues where corruption is concerned, mismanagement, mishandling of resources, and we've had costs to dispense with the services of some officers in a few of the local democratic organs. We've had cases in Port Morant, we've had cases in Georgetown itself, we've had cases in Eccles, Pleasance, Buxton, a few of the neighborhood democratic councils. On the west coast, we've had Windsor Forest. On the east coast, we have Enmore. So quite a few we've had cause to intervene.
Mhm. Now, Minister, the election is on June the 12th. I was informed that there is a devious Facebook article by a malicious person claiming that the PPPC will rig this local government election. Has the PPPC ever rigged any election in Guyana? If not, who the riggers are? What do you have in place to prevent rigging and to ensure you have free and fair election there? What is the role of GEOCOM, for example? And will
Well,
there be overseas monitors?
GCOM actually conducts all elections in Guyana. Uh, in the case of the government, the ruling People's Progressive Party 7, we will participate in all of there are 80 elections that will have to be conducted, one for each neighborhood democratic council as well as one for each of the 10 municipalities. So GCOM basically conducts the elections. We participate as electors. We ensure that our party's mandate is fulfilled in terms of electioneering. I can tell you with no fear of contradiction, the People's Progressive Party Civic does not involve in any type of untoward behavior on election day, prior to election day, and even after elections. As a matter of fact, we pride ourselves to being a party that stands firm and true to democracy and all the governing principles of democracy. We also participate freely and fairly in all elections. So there is no doubt that where the PPPC is concerned, that the elections would be free and fair. We've had cause 2020, and historically, we've had cause to bring to the national as well as international attention the behavior and as well as the modus operandi of the People's National Congress and its subsequent name changes, APNU, AFC. They have been heavily involved in election rigging. Only recently, in the national elections of 2020, we've had cause to also share our concerns where those misdemeanors were executed on their behalf. I myself participated heavily in elections, and including during the 5 months where I was involved in working the night shift at GCOM to make sure that none of the containers were tampered with. I also worked during the recount, and even during those times, there were issues where the APNUFC tried to derail in addition to the elections, the recount as well. So where the PPPC is concerned, there is no fear, and but of course, all Guyanese must guard themselves where the APNU-AFC is concerned because they have a history of election rigging, and which is well documented, and which has even faced the attention of the courts in Guyana as well as in the Caribbean.
Would it be overseas monitors or?
I've seen in the papers that GCOM has requested local observers in the meantime. The the attendance of election observers, that is also a function of GCOM, and insofar as I'm aware, they have not yet published whether they will have international observers. But I think that it is something that should happen. And where our party is concerned, we are fearless. So we would be happy to have as many people come and observe the elections as possible.
Okay. Now I'll pass you on to Professor Ganga Ramdas. Professor Ramdas.
Good evening, Honorable Minister Dharamlall. It's nice to see you here.
Good evening.
It was a very important outline of the functions of your ministry. and also the relationship, financial relationship between the central government and the local government. That's very important to conduct your work. Um, coming coming to the recent work plan that was approved, how does your ministry participate in that work plan? And specifically, the administrative aspects at the various locations across the country, how would that be looked at and organized?
Well, like I said earlier, the Ministry of Local Government, and more specifically the Minister, gives approval to the estimates or the budgets, the annual budgets of the neighborhood democratic councils as well as the municipalities. These budgets are generated or are supposed to be generated from the consultations that the councillors would undertake during the course of the year, as well as based on the submissions of residents within various communities across Guyana. But because many of these councils are not heavily entrenched with lots of resources, central government has taken an integral or has played an integral role, and especially where our government is concerned, an integral role in making sure that services are enhanced in communities. Like I said earlier, this government pays quite a lot in terms of solid waste management. Because this is one of the clarion calls of many of our communities, if not all of our communities. The government also, central government that is, invests in practically all of the heavy infrastructure. Insofar as President Ali's government has been concerned, we have invested already in over 2,500 community roads in the last 2 years of his government. And this is something that we are steadfastly working on as well, converting all of the mud dams and mud streets and even chip seal streets into asphalted concrete as well as reinforced concrete for longevity purposes. The central government is also involved in the management of the drainage infrastructure. We pay thousands of workers across the country to work in some of these areas. And recently, through a commitment of the manifesto of the People's Progressive Party Civic, we were able to employ 13,000 part-time workers, most of whom work within the neighborhood democratic councils to provide alleviated services.
Yes, the thing I'm concerned with, that's excellent what you said. The election outcome should be very good. That's something we have to keep an eye on. So the administration, the staffing, the communication to the voters, is their name on the list? Do they have the appropriate ID and so forth? So that all parts of the plan for the election should work smoothly and efficiently, and should have your maximum oversight so that no other deviant practice is there. So I would also say, why don't we consider paid staffing, just like jurors in the United States? They have a small stipend, and it's largely voluntary, but they also get some encouragement. Now, when she come advertise for social groups, that's one part, but we must have other inputs, and sometimes we might want to have some paid volunteers or paid people, and the government side, especially the parties, should have their people on the ground to invigilate all parts of the process and to see that that goes smoothly.
Yeah, so well, I can also share with you that where the People's Progressive Party Civic is concerned, we take elections very seriously. because we believe that governance, whether at the national or local level, that governance is important at those levels. And so we need to get the best people, and in this case, the best party. The elections are two-part elections where people vote on, or voters, the electors would vote on on a constituency candidate, as well as they would vote on a list called the PR list, or the proportional representation list. In terms of the conduct of the elections, like I said, GCOM conducts the elections. GCOM would have paid staff, polling clerks. They even help in paying scrutineers and for all the parties to some extent. But at the election level, the parties themselves, in our case, our party, we take it very seriously. So quite a lot of all of our people, our polling agents, are well trained and they are well versed. Many of them with many elections behind them, so they are very well experienced as well. We will also be monitoring from the level of the party leadership to make sure that everything goes well. So what I'd like to say is that we would like to encourage everyone in all the communities. Local government elections are not usually heavily participated in terms of the turnout, and this is a global issue. But where this country is concerned, we would like as many persons to come out as possible, because we have seen tremendous transformation in our country in terms of local democracy, and we have seen the investments over the last 2.5 years of President Ali to transform our villages and our communities. And we would expect that our electors will come out and show support so that we can continue. What I can tell you as well is that we are getting quite a lot of support from all corners of our country, across the ethnic divide, across and every demographic. We are getting tremendous support at this point in time. So we expect that these elections are going to be successfully held, and the People's Progressive Party Civic is going to benefit well from these elections.
Professor Haraj?
Sure. Good evening, Minister Dharamlall. I mean, most of what you have said had covered some of the questions I was going to ask, but you spoke about a very important aspect of local government election, and it's a critical component of partnership with central government. It has been a norm maybe where local government elections are not taken as seriously as you would have said. Well, why is it important for the Guyanese constituents and population to understand the critical importance of local government election that you would want to share at this platform?
Well, local governance is basically people from within communities who govern themselves, and the stronger the local government system, the stronger local governance, so too will be the national democracy. So it is incredibly important, because services that ought to have been provided by the local democratic organs, unfortunately, those services have to be provided by central government, because rate collection is still low, because participation in terms of the best candidates becoming councillors. So what we have done in terms of our party is that we have done an enormous amount of consultations across constituencies in our country to make sure that we have the most committed and hopefully the best candidates who can be voted as councillors in all of our local democratic organs.
Yeah, and it goes back to the notion of equal representation based upon the demographic composition, because I'm not sure as to surveys. Does the local government ministry take surveys on demographic for allocation of resources? Because you spoke about maybe some level of lack of participation.
Well, in a democracy, we do not have these types of means tests. So what we have is that the rules governing local democracy They are covered in the Constitution, or different chapters of the Constitution. And so rate collection is across the country. What we campaign on is that we will not increase any measure that would affect people's pockets, especially during this course of, or during this period where cost of living and those issues are quite telling on people's lives. Not much of our doing because of what COVID had created, as well as what the war in Ukraine is currently having on the pockets of many of our people, not here in Guyana alone, but across the world. And I guess the entire panel knows about this.
Yeah.
But what I want to make clear is that everyone in every community, as long as you have a registered home, you're supposed to pay your rates and taxes. Uh, that sometimes doesn't always happen, but because the rates are also so very low, that is why central government does a lot of the heavy lifting. And we decide to keep them deliberately low, or those rates deliberately low, because, like I said, we do not want to impose hardship measures or further hardship measures on people. As a matter of fact, what happened between 2015 and 2020, the last government went on a campaign to increase rates and taxes. In one case in New Amsterdam, they doubled rates and taxes on the hapless citizens of New Amsterdam. We campaigned against it when we were in opposition, and true to our word, we decided that we are not going to be engaged in any way that will affect people's pockets. So that is why you see central government playing such an important role.
Yeah.
These councillors, many of them get blamed. They do a lot of hard work, oftentimes, uh, but all they get is a stipend from the council itself, and that stipend is based on the ability of the council to generate its own income.
Right.
We have a standard subvention. The government has a standard subvention, central government, that is provided to all of the local democratic organs. In the case of neighborhood democratic councils, they get all 70 of them get the exact same amount. And in terms of the municipalities, Georgetown gets more than the 9 other municipalities, because the city of Georgetown has a history, and it's also quite large.
Understood. Understood. I one more question, if you indulge me. You spoke about fiscal accountability, and Dr. Buru actually alluded to it a bit. Is these or are these financial statements from the various NDCs published for public scrutiny and review? And also, we had a program where I was maybe privileged to be a part when Minister of Labor was here, when he spoke about the co-op societies, some regulation that is needed here. Given that these are local societies, would that be of an interest in your ministry as well?
Well, just on the first issue, in terms of the financial statements, these are public documents. All business of all local democratic organs is public business. So any member of the public is eligible to participate in all of the meetings or the assemblies of the local democratic organs, where their budget is discussed, where their financial statements are presented. Uh, the audited statements are also audited through the Auditor General's Office of Guyana, or any auditor nominated by the Auditor General's Office of Guyana. Uh, so these are public documents, yes. In terms of the other aspects that you raised with me, uh, I need to be very clear to members of the public that NDCs and towns are not, outside of Georgetown, they're not very wealthy, in the sense that they have an abounding amount of resources. So you naturally will find that many of our councillors are being criticized, sometimes unduly so. But then there are other cases where they require the necessary criticism because of how they conduct themselves. We've had, like I said earlier, cause to institute disciplinary action against the some of the overseers as well as officers of some of these councils. Um, we have also had cause to send some issues to the police. In the news today, there some issue regarding Georgetown has gone to the Special Organized Crime Unit as well, because hundreds of millions of dollars. Georgetown has been a cesspool of mismanagement, and I think that it is one of the critical areas. It is the capital city of our country. It is an iconic city of our country, or iconic town of our country. It is where the center of businesses is. It is where the government is located as well. And Georgetown has been tremendously mismanaged for many years. Practically since independence, Georgetown has been run by the People's National Congress, or agents of the People's National Congress. And I think it is imperative at this time that the citizens of Georgetown use these elections to give a different management an opportunity to run the city. We have been doing tremendously well in management of the city of the country. We have also at the national level provided a lot of support for development in Georgetown in terms of the road infrastructure and the drainage infrastructure, including hundreds of millions of dollars in drainage pumps that we've provided, maintenance of the drainage sluices. We have also, like I said, engaged in the management of solid waste. And recently, over the last 2.5 years, President Ali has embarked on physical transformation of Georgetown by creating safe community spaces, building boulevards in areas that were totally dilapidated. So you are finding Georgetown heavily transformed. Uh, it is expanding in terms of the housing infrastructure. The commercial infrastructure of Georgetown has also expanded tremendously over the last 2.5 years. And it is going to get even more intense as we proceed into the future. So the city of Georgetown requires proper management. And I think that a new political party, and in this case the PPPC, should be given the opportunity to manage Georgetown by the citizens of Georgetown.
Okay. Minister, I noticed that the President Ali and all of his ministers, including you, are visiting all the various communities in Guyana, listening to their problems and trying to address them, sometimes immediately. Do the LG, that's the local government organ you call them, involve the community in proposed work? No, how?
Well, essentially, that is what they're supposed to be doing. Being in communities, listening to people's issues, and try as much as possible to resolve the local community type issues. And it is true that President Ali and his team, including the Vice President, the Prime Minister, ministers of government, high officials of the government, we have been across this entire country, going out, being accessible to people, and treating with their issues in the most efficient ways. This is what people voted for. And I think that, and this is a commitment that President Ali made in his campaign, that he is going to have a government that will be accessible, a government that will always be present in communities. And I think that we have been doing so tremendously well. President Ali and his team, we have had in excess of 6,000-7,000 meetings already in different parts of Guyana. And this is at the highest level of the government, at the level of the cabinet. The president himself has done something very transformative, and that is to take office of the president, his office, 2 days per month into different regions of Guyana, and he's already done so in quite a few regions. This is separate and apart from the cabinet outreaches that we've already done and that we intend to pursue in the future.
Yeah. But President Ali and all you guys are actually leading. Are the LG following your lead, or they're doing their own things?
Well, in some cases, they are following and they are participating. in a lot of these outreaches. We've had cases where some of the opposition councillors have not participated, but in some cases, some of the opposition chairs and councillors have also participated and expressed the desire to continue to work with President Ali. And this is apart from the behavior of the opposition leader, who has not engaged in any type of cooperation with the government. But at the local level, we've had a lot of support in many of the communities that are not supportive. Well, in prior elections. However, in the last 2.5 years, we have seen thousands of persons across the ethnic divide, across the wide demographic divide, coming on board, working with us. President Ali has been leading this charge, and many non-traditional communities of the People's Progressive Party Civic, we have had some of the best success stories in Buxton, in Victoria, in BV, in Agricola, some of those communities in South Georgetown, and President Ali, Prime Minister, as well as the Vice President, they have been leading many of these missions.
Mhm. Now, what is the state of littering and trench and drainage canals pollution in these communities? Is the LG, the local government, responsible for providing sanitation services?
Yes, they are
Do they work with
responsible.
federal government?
The councils are responsible, but like I said, because they are not so well endowed with resources, central government does a lot of the heavy lifting. Uh, I don't know when last you came to Guyana, but every day you see Guyana looking different. We have had a lot of garbage removed from our streets, our drains, our canals. They took our president as well last year, January. He has been leading this charge. We've had quite a few persons prosecuted in the court, businesses prosecuted as well, because of wanton discharge of or disposal of garbage on our streets and in our communities. So Georgetown itself is looking cleaner. The different LDOs looking cleaner. What I could say is that residents themselves, they have been reporting a lot of these issues to us, and the police have been very instrumental in making sure that quite a lot of the perpetrators are prosecuted too. And the courts have been helpful to make sure that they are fined. I've read cases where people have been imprisoned for up to 2 weeks because of wanton disposal of garbage in public places.
Yeah, well, I think that's good. I went to your website, the Ministry of Local Government website today, and I also scouted around to other government websites. And what I found, they're all dated and in general very poor, right? A website is a gateway for your message into the community, and you should be responsive and updated regularly. For example, I clicked on projects on your website and could not see a single project in any region. Are there plans to upgrade and regularly update these websites? I mean, I've seen some of the projects in other ministries listed, 2018 projects, right? And those projects are in no way comparative to the kinds of work you guys are doing in transforming Guyana.
Yeah, I think we would have to take that ouch moment and make sure that we upgrade our websites, or at least make sure that we have up-to-date information on them. But what I could tell you is that most of our work is done in our communities through personal contact. And the best way to build a local democracy is to make sure that we are out there listening to people and being able to resolve their issues. But yes, it is one of the areas of concern that we'd have to process and to make sure that the information that we disseminate, whether virtually or otherwise, that we have updated information. Even up till today, I was actually doing some research before I came on this program, and I can tell you that the per capita investment in all 10 regions of Guyana has practically doubled in the last 2.5 years. The per capita investment. in all 10 regions has practically doubled. In some cases, more than 130%. So a lot of work is being done. Thousands of kilometers of roads have been constructed. Thousands of kilometers of drains have been cleaned and cleared. We have thousands of homes have already been constructed in the last 2.5 years as well. So yes, we have quite a lot of investments, and it is something that we need to promote much more.
Yeah, because you see, it's a question of messaging. Because this is a social media time, and I've seen you've actually laid out your case and how much you spend. But for example, I can't find that information that you just mentioned, right? I can't find how many houses being constructed in the last 2.5 years.
Well, what you can, we actually, maybe we have not updated our websites, but the information is available. The main agency that does the transmission of government information is the Department of Public Information, the DPI.
Yes,
And
I went there too,
yeah,
and that is not very good too.
well, what you have to do is it's so much work that we've done. You probably will spend a few days researching. So if you keep scrolling, you will find a lot of work.
I did that.
We've also done a lot of our promotion on not the static type of websites, but we've done a lot of the virtually now people hardly use websites. They go on Facebook, they go on Instagram to follow what is happening, and different other types of Twitter as well. Twitter is not such a big thing yet in Guyana, but Facebook, everyone is on Facebook. So all of our programs, our projects, our activities are all on Facebook. So it might be good to go to the ministry's pages and get much more updated information.
Yeah,
But
well,
I take your criticism
I did that. I
it's
did
something that
that.
we'd have to get done.
Yeah, I did that. I'm saying that you guys have done wonderful work over the last 2.5 years, and that messaging needs to be done very well too. And website, is, although you said is not being very popular compared with the other media, is still like the gateway to a lot of these types of work. And I've seen other countries.
Our Guyanese people have become very sophisticated. So they like information immediately. So everybody scrolls Facebook and see what's happening almost instantaneously.
Yeah. All right, Professor Hariraj.
Dr. Budu, I think it's a good point, but as Minister said, I think the transformation on the ground cannot go unnoticed. So, my humble position on this is to take the reality check on the ground. A government is in the communities every week, every day, every moment. I think that speaks volume than seeing information that is static on a website. And I know the need of the narrative that is being spun, but I think the reality on the ground speaks for itself. Minister, I know you said that there's a transform or additional NDCs, 70 and 10 municipalities. Given that there is an additional local government election span, what can the Guyanese public and stakeholders and people in the diaspora expect from a timeline once elections are run to get results? I think that's one of the concerns all of the time about election results.
Yeah, well, we expect the elections results to be as in 2020. We had known the results of the elections by the evening, and in the course of the local government elections, those results should also be in by the close of business as well, because one of the requirements is to publicly post the results of the elections, the statements of poll at the place of poll in public, and so by the end of the day, you practically know who has won the elections, as we did with the national elections as well. But of course, if anyone wants to be engaged in nefarious activities towards the elections, as happened in 2020 when the AP and UAFC did not want to concede defeat, then I'd have to pray for them. Now is quite a prayerful season. Now is Ramadan. We also participated in Lent as well as Naurat. So let's hope that the AP and UAFC would accept the results of the elections, as they ought to have done in 2020 as well.
Minister, is the APNU or PNC, whatever that opposition party is, are they participating in the election?
I would suspect they would participate in elections. They have been equivocating for a long time in terms of how they will participate, but I think what has happened though is that they are facing a lot of challenges, internal challenges in their party, where the majority of people do not support their leader, and so they're finding it difficult to configure different lists to participate in elections. But I expect them to participate, yes.
Professor Dangaramdas?
Oh, yes, I had some technical difficulties. Sorry about that. I just like to add a little comment on the tax issue. It's very commendable that we keep the tax rates low for households. But as we are developing business uses of our resources, our land. So we need to look at the differential, the tax incidence between households versus business. It's, as I said, it's very commendable that we keep the tax rates for households low in these times. But for business uses, we may need a little bit more participation from them. So, what's your comment on that?
Well, we made commitments in our manifesto, and our commitments were very clear. They were very simple, and we have upheld those commitments. One of those commitments we made is that we would not be engaged in any increase in rates and taxes. We didn't stipulate whether it was for households or businesses. As a matter of fact, the business sector between 2015 and 2020 contracted enormously because of the pressures placed on that sector by the last government. And as soon as we came into government, we were able to release over 200 or almost 200 what we call hardship measures that were imposed on businesses and households in the country. So I guess as our country develops and we build our local democracy, we build our local organizations, and they get stronger, their management also gets stronger, then naturally you will find residents paying their rates and taxes much more in terms of frequency, as well as businesses. But in the meantime, for us, our economic philosophy is much different from the philosophy of the People's National Congress. Our economic philosophy is to ensure that everyone gets an opportunity to benefit from the resources of our country. Everyone gets an opportunity to make a living wage. Everyone gets an opportunity to take care of their family. Everyone gets an opportunity to earn. Everyone gets an opportunity to save. Quite unlike what happened over the last 5 years of the AP and UAFC, where the government was making money and the people were left without. So it is, we are on the other end of the economic spectrum where that is concerned. And so we remain steadfast that we will uphold our commitments in the manifesto. So I can assure you that we will continue to campaign that we will not increase any rates and taxes.
Dr. Ramdas, I think one of the important aspects of that too, with the measures from the government, if you attach higher taxation to the businesses, then it's passed on to the consumer, which affects the household. So you gotta be very careful how we tax, because the burden passes on to the local consumer.
Yes, that's true. You don't want to tax them out of existence. You want to provide some infrastructure benefits to them with the tax dollars. So that should be balanced. They shouldn't be complaining, oh, nobody came to pick up my garbage and stuff like that. Well, you have to be patient. The truck will come around. So we need to balance it a little bit and explain. This is where communications from the local government is very, very important. If the people know why and they could see the benefits, they're going to appreciate it very much. And in terms of this election coming up, some basic questions needs to be answered. We step into the shoes of the voter. Do I have my ID? Is my name on the register? These basic questions should be looked at, and then the communication campaigns should make sure the voters are comfortable, and when they go to vote, it's also secure, and they're not scared to go out there and vote. There'll be a
Yeah,
lot of
well, I I
scary
I I
talk.
I think I need to reiterate in very slowly that the People's Progressive Party, we have an enormous leader in the General Secretary, Dr. Barry Jagdeo. We have very experienced people in government led by His Excellency the President. Uh, they may look young, but they're well versed in politics and the development of this country. We are also well versed in elections. Many of us have been participating in elections as polling agents uh, at different levels uh, over the many years since we were teenagers. So we know what it takes to host elections and to conduct elections. And I can assure you that we have left no stone unturned. We are well prepared, we are fully prepared, and all our people are fully prepared for elections. Um, and no one should be fearful of participating in elections. As a matter of fact, it is their democratic right. Elections were not something that was a right many years ago, between 1964 and 2002. Sorry, 1992. Elections were not a right. Uh, and in the last 5 years of APNU AFC, they also tried to take away that right. In 1953, when Dr. Jagan fought for universal adult suffrage, one man, one vote, it was never like that prior to 1953. So Dr. Jagan is the one who has basically ensured that as long as you're an adult, you should be allowed to vote. And you should not vote alone just because of how you look or what you have. And so we have been working in all communities to make sure that everyone turns out to vote on election day.
Thank you very much, Minister. You've been very kind in providing some very good answers to the questions that we had. Now, what I'll do, I'll pass you on to Shamiza. I think she might have a couple of questions from our viewers. Shamiza?
Thank you, Professor Kulu. We do have questions. So our first question comes from Rajendra Singh, and he's asking, are annual audits on operations, finances, and performance of officers being conducted at the NDC offices across the country? If any, can the results be more public?
Could you repeat? I didn't get that very clearly.
So he's asking if annual audits on operations, finances, and performances of officers are being conducted at the NDC offices across the country. And if it is, can the results be made public?
If audits are conducted on officers,
Yes.
well, officers are graded based on their performance. We do conduct audits, though, on the organizations, in this case, the NDCs as well as the municipalities. Uh, and in other cases, you would have what you call special audits based on different circumstances that emanate out of these organizations. And I think Dr. Mahendra will probably know much more about these things than I do in terms of how they're done. But I can tell you that we do not slip up with people who behave financially inappropriate. as I'd indicated earlier in the program, that we've already taken action and people have been dismissed, and police action has also been pursued on some individuals.
I think the question also wants to know whether this information is publicly available.
I think I also mentioned, yes, that all business of local democratic organs is public business. All the decision making is done in public, and these reports can be viewed at the local democratic organ.
Shamisa?
This question is from myself. What would you say to your supporters or non-supporters to encourage them to come out June 12th and vote?
Well, to get to have progress continued, you have to have a formidable team, and that team is led by President Ali. We look forward to putting more resources into the local organs, into our communities, and so this is a commitment of our president, and we'd like the best people to ensure that those resources are managed within our communities. And so residents are encouraged to come out and vote for our councillors, or candidates, sorry, and who we can put in as councillors in these communities to provide better management and support to our communities.
Perfect. Well
So
said.
it is very important for you to come out and vote. It is the only way you can decide who becomes your representative. Staying away is not going to resolve any of your issues. Coming out to vote is one of the most sacred things that you can do, because that is how you determine who lead your community.
Thank you. We will now take your closing remarks.
Oh well, I'm very happy that the Guyana Dialogue has engaged us. It gives us an opportunity to share with the wider public what obtains in our sector. It is quite a challenging place to be. Local government is no ordinary sector to deal with, because you deal with people's issues on a daily basis. And these are issues, community issues are also issues which affect people at a personal level. So you have to take due care in dealing with people's issues. And I look forward to having as many persons come out and support in all communities in our country to make sure that the vision of President Ali is realized. We are working on an almost perfect platform. And I say perfect because we have practically fulfilled our entire manifesto in just 2.5 years. And so the scope for development is expanding. Our country is blooming. Leadership in our country has been like never before. And so all of our electors should be out there supporting what is happening. And in every community, we have not missed a community in terms of equitable development. And so there should be no fear, whether you vote for the PPPC or whether you support the PPPC or not. We are going to work in every community, and this is a commitment our president has made. And so he looks forward also to your support in making sure that we are able to continue doing so.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our panel tonight. Sorry. Thank you to our panel tonight. Thank you to our viewers who have taken the time to be here. Until next time, thank you, Minister Dharamlall. It was truly an honor to have you here this evening on this program. We look forward to hearing more about elections and a lot more about what's going on in Guyana. Until next time, this is the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your host, Shamisa Ali. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.